They say dogs are man's best friend, but after seeing these unbelievable animal friendships, you might completely change your mind. From giant predators showing affection to wild animals refusing to leave their human companions, these are some of the most unusual friendships between humans and beasts ever seen. And trust me, the closer we get to number 1, the crazier these friendships become. Number 10. Fagin the Crow. Crows are considered some of the smartest birds on Earth. They can recognize human faces, solve problems, and remember people for years. Wildlife lover Vicky Kenward rescued an injured baby crow named Fagin after he fell from his nest. She cared for the bird until he recovered, expecting him to eventually return to the wild. But Fagin had other plans. Instead of leaving, the crow decided to stay with the family permanently. He spends his days exploring the countryside before returning home every evening to be with Vicky again. At this point, nobody's entirely sure whether Fagin is a pet crow or just a tiny feathered roommate with wings. Number 9. The Man and the Goose. Retired salesman Dominic Erler spends most mornings walking around a peaceful park lake, and every single day, one goose waits for him there. A gray goose named Maria became strangely attached to Dominic after randomly following him during one of his walks. At first, he assumed it was temporary, but day after day, Maria continued following him everywhere he went. The goose even chases behind Dominic's scooter when he leaves the park. Now he makes sure Maria safely settles down before heading home each evening, because apparently, having a loyal goose companion is now part of his daily routine. Number 8. The Diver and the Fish. Fish are not usually known for remembering people, but one giant fish in Japan seems to remember a human friend for decades. Back in the early 1990s, diver Hiroyuki Arakawa discovered an injured giant wrasse near an underwater shrine. The fish was starving and badly wounded, so Hiroyuki returned every day to feed and care for it until it recovered. He named the fish Yoriko. More than 30 years later, Yoriko still recognizes him instantly. Whenever Hiroyuki dives underwater, the giant fish swims directly toward him and gently presses against him like an affectionate pet greeting its owner. Even scientists struggle to explain the bond between them. Number 7. Jessica the Hippo. Hippos are responsible for more human deaths in Africa than many people realize, but Jessica the Hippo behaves more like an oversized pet. After finding her orphaned near Kruger National Park, Tony and Shirley Joubert rescued and cared for the young hippo until she recovered. Eventually, they released her back into the wild, but Jessica kept returning home again and again. Eventually, the couple stopped trying to send her away, and Jessica became part of the family. Now the massive hippo wanders freely around the property and has appeared in documentaries watched around the world. Number 6. The Polar Bear Companion. Polar bears are among the deadliest hunters in the Arctic. Most people would never willingly stand beside one, but Canadian animal trainer Mark Dumas doesn't just stand beside a polar bear, he swims with one. Mark raised a polar bear named Agi from the time she was a tiny cub. As she grew larger, their bond only became stronger. The pair spend time swimming together, relaxing together, and even appearing in television productions together. Watching a man casually hug a full-grown polar bear feels completely unreal, but somehow, Agi treats Mark more like family than prey. Number 5. Moyo the Elephant. After being abandoned by her herd and left stranded near a river surrounded by hyenas, a baby elephant named Moyo was rescued by wildlife ranger Roxy Dankworts. The tiny elephant was weak, frightened, and close to death. Roxy brought Moyo back to a sanctuary and cared for her day and night until she recovered. From that moment forward, Moyo became completely attached to her rescuer. The elephant follows Roxy everywhere, including directly into the house. She squeezes through doorways, steals food from the kitchen, climbs onto furniture, and investigates absolutely everything with her trunk, which might sound adorable until you realize elephants are not exactly small roommates. Number 4. Brutus the Grizzly. Grizzly bears are one of the most powerful predators on Earth, so naturally, Casey Anderson decided to become best friends with one. Casey rescued a grizzly cub named Brutus from a wildlife facility that planned to euthanize him because there simply wasn't enough room to keep another bear. Instead of losing his life, Brutus found a new home and a lifelong companion. As the years passed, Brutus grew into an enormous grizzly weighing nearly a ton. But despite his terrifying appearance, the bear formed an incredibly close bond with with Casey. In fact, when Casey got married, Brutus actually attended the wedding as his best man, probably the only wedding guest capable of accidentally crushing someone with a hug. Number 3. The Boy and the Python. Scientists often claim reptiles are incapable of emotional attachment, but one boy in Cambodia seems determined to prove otherwise. Before Sambath was born, his mother reportedly dreamed that a snake would one day protect her child. Shortly after his birth, she discovered a tiny python curled beneath the baby's bed. She released it back into the wild, but 2 weeks later, the snake mysteriously returned to the exact same spot. Believing it was a sign, the family decided to keep the python and named it Chamroun. Over the years, the snake grew into a massive 16-foot-long python, yet Sambath continued treating it like his closest friend. Every night, he sleeps beside the enormous serpent completely unafraid, which is honestly something most people could never imagine doing. Number 2. The Pet Caiman. Most people regret buying expensive shoes or useless gadgets. One Japanese man ended up with a 7-foot crocodilian living in his house. More than 3 decades ago, Nobumitsu Murabayashi bought a baby caiman from a street market without realizing how enormous it would eventually become. Today, the reptile weighs over 100 pounds and is treated more like a family pet than a dangerous predator. Nobumitsu even walks the caiman through the streets on a leash, attracting stunned reactions everywhere he goes. And despite looking absolutely terrifying, the giant reptile behaves surprisingly calmly around humans. Still, brushing the teeth of a massive crocodilian is probably not a hobby most people would choose. Number 1. Kiara the Lioness. After Mexico banned exotic circus animals in 2014, a man named Adolfo Caram dedicated his life to rescuing abandoned big cats. He opened a wildlife sanctuary where lions that had suffered years of mistreatment could finally live safely. One of the rescued animals was a tiny lion cub named Kiara. Adolfo cared for her like family, feeding her by hand and raising her from a young age. But as Kiara grew older, she eventually had to move to a much larger sanctuary where she could properly mature into adulthood. Years later, Adolfo returned to visit her. Workers were nervous. After all, Kiara was no longer a harmless cub. She was now a fully grown lioness, powerful enough to kill with a single attack. But the moment she saw him, everything changed. Kiara sprinted toward Adolfo, wrapped her giant paws around him, and covered him with slobbery kisses like an excited dog seeing its owner after years apart. Despite the time and distance, she had never forgotten the man who once saved her life. And after hearing all these stories, maybe humans aren't the only creatures capable of forming lifelong friendships after all. Thanks for watching. Which animal friendship surprised you the most? Let me know down in the comments. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more unbelievable stories from around the world. See you in the next video.